Hi, welcome to James Miller Lifeology, where you learn to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. My name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Let's get started. If you're anything like me, your health is very important to you. I know you listen to the show for tips to simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Well, I have some great news for you. James Miller Lifeology has partnered with BioOptimizers Nutrition. As an avid nutrition and exercise enthusiast, I thought I knew a lot. But after taking the 12-week health course BioOptimizers offers and implementing their supplements, I noticed a huge difference in my energy and my digestive tract. Since you're a listener of Lifeology Radio, BioOptimizers is offering you the same 12-week course absolutely free. Go to jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements to take this free course. Here is a sample of what you'd learn. How to get 70% more energy in 30 seconds or less. The ultimate key to high performance, health, and longevity. How to turn the tide against uncontrollable food cravings. How to select the most powerful supplements for you. How to stay lean and trim without sacrifice. The simplest and fastest way to detoxification and great skin. And much, much more. To get access to this awesome health course, simply go to jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements and sign up today. Once again, visit jamesmillerlifeology.com/supplements or simply go to jamesmillerlifeology.com. I have a great show for you today. I'm going to help you discern your intuition. I'll also be interviewing Isabel Hundt, an empath warrior whose life is a great reflection of how anyone can create a deep spiritual connection within and to be able to powerfully step into their purpose. She also reviews her non-religious book, The Power of Faith-Driven Success, that successfully merges spirituality with science. For more information about Isabel, please visit isabelhunt.com. That's ISABELHUNDT.com. You may also purchase her book on Amazon or in the store at jamesmillerlifeology.com. I have some exciting news. Did you know that I'm on the radio 3 times a week? You may hear me on the same station on Tuesdays at 1:30 p.m., Fridays at 9:30 a.m., and Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. You may also hear me anytime on iHeartRadio as well as on all the other major podcasting platforms, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and many others. Simply search for the show name, James Miller Lifeology. Are you struggling today to find your purpose? Has mediocrity set in and you can't imagine doing the same thing for the rest of your life? Are your relationships struggling or you aren't sure how to make long-lasting changes in your life? Then today, contact me, James Miller. I will help you recognize the areas in your life that are going really well, and then we'll look at the areas in which you are struggling. We will create actionable solutions to help you create long-lasting changes in your life. You don't have to do this alone. Go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page Work with James. Fill out the form and it will be sent directly to me. Don't let another day go by without finding your way. Your change can start today. Once again, go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and click on the page Work with James. Fill out that form to get started today. Discerning your intuition. We've all had those moments in life that upon reflection, we think, oh my goodness, I should not have dated that person, or I should have made that business move, or I shouldn't have invested money in that particular stock. Those types of reflections are often very powerful because we realize in the moment we had the information we needed to make a decision. But for whatever reason, we didn't follow through with it. Did you know that we actually have 3 brains in our body? Of course, we know the brain between our ears, and that is really like a computer, essentially. It gathers information, it analyzes, and it uses logic to discern what is going on in our life. And the reality is that's actually used for the fight or flight part of our body. If we discern something to be a danger to ourselves, we will automatically flee or we will fight or even freeze. But the other 2 brains are essentially our heart brain and our gut brain. That gut brain is actually called the enteric brain. When we talk about ourselves, we often think about ourselves as an entity, or in other words, the soul of who we are. And that's often found in our heart. Our heart is usually the representation of who we are as a being, who we are as a human, that which makes up our morality, our character, our essence of who we are. And then the enteric brain, or the gut brain, is that powerful brain that actually discerns yes or no. And you'll find that many times people say, well, I have a nervous stomach, and that's a physical representation of what your gut is telling you. Or other times people just simply say, I just have a feeling. It's quite interesting. Serotonin is a neurotransmitter that is one of the feel-good chemicals in our brain. And for people who suffer with depression, unfortunately, their body doesn't create enough of that serotonin. Did you know that over 90% of serotonin is actually in your gut? So your gut produces a lot of the serotonin, and that's why you have a connection between your brain and your gut. So when we are making decisions in life, and that can be from the biggest decision you've ever made to simply walking down the street, the three brains are always working together to give us information. Your head brain analyzes and processes everything, just like a computer. Your heart brain is the part of you that is your cheerleader, that wants everything that you've always wanted. For example, if you want to be married, you meet somebody and yes, this person has all the qualifications. You use your head brain to figure that out. But your gut brain will determine if that person is healthy for you or not based off of red flags. So the difference is your heart brain will always say, yes, let's do this because this is my dream. This is my goal. This is what I want. It's always that part of you that's going to launch ahead and say, yes, this is right for me. And there's nothing wrong with that. But we have to make sure that the other two parts of us also are in agreement with that. And if they're not, unfortunately, that's where some of these decisions will be made that upon reflection, we realize maybe we shouldn't have done it. One thing I would really have you look at is when you do make a decision, literally touch your belly. What do you feel? And when we can look at that feeling part of it, it will give you a clue as to what decision you should make. Remember, the gut brain gives you the yes or no feelings. The heart brain will always say yes because it meets the goal that you have. And then the head brain will give you the logical conclusions of why you should or should not do it. So anytime you make a decision, you want to make sure all three parts of your body are in sync. But your gut brain will always give you the yes or no. But if we don't feel it, if we don't listen for it, or don't recognize it, unfortunately, upon reflection, that will probably be a time when you missed your intuition. My guest today, Isabel Hundt, is an expert on this. There's so many different ways in how we can review different topics. And I wanted to give you my version of how to physically understand your intuition. She's an expert in this, and she's going to discuss how she does it, specifically in her book as well. So definitely stay tuned for that interview, and you'll definitely hear her expertise. But remember, practice connecting all three parts of your brains together, and you'll realize your decisions are much more healthy for you. Did you know I have a YouTube channel? That's actually how Lifeology started. I have well over 155 episodes that I've created specifically for you. I do know that many people struggle with listening to a full 30-minute show. So these episodes are about 3 minutes long. Each episode will give you a practical tool or technique that you can practice daily to help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. Simply go to my website, jamesmillerlifeology.com, or go to YouTube and search for my name, James Miller Lifeology. My guest today is Isabel Hundt, who experienced a prophetic dream at the age of 12. This German native had to tackle many obstacles to see her dream of speaking in front of thousands of people become reality. Her biggest obstacle turned out to be to fully connect her heart and soul to accept who she is as an empath warrior. She's here today to discuss her book, The Power of Faith-Driven Success, which is a foundation for helping people define and live their dreams. Welcome to my show, Isabel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to share some of my story.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear your story as well. So at the age of 12, you had this prophetic dream. Tell us about it.
Yes, that was actually interesting. I literally went to bed that night thinking, well, I'm going to just finish my high school, right? Mm-hmm. I did grow up in Germany, was raised there, born as well. And so I went to bed and I thought, well, I'm going to have finished my high school. I get a job. I go to college first, then get a job, have a family, and then retire eventually. And then the morning I woke up and I'm thinking, something is different. There's something weird. That dream was so vivid that I can't let go of it. So what happened was that it was an outside area and I was looking at the stage, and the closer I looked, I saw that it was me at an adult age. Oh, wow. And the person on stage was very calm and people were cheering, and there were so many people in front of that stage. And I'm like, that's not me because it's not German. She's not speaking German. I'm just watching a concert or something. Mm-hmm. And, but the more days went by, the more I was like, that was me. It just didn't let me go. You know, when you have those really vivid dreams and they don't let you go for weeks. Yes. And you kept getting back to that. And then, a couple years later, I think it was 2 or 3 years later, somewhere around there, we had Bible students come from, South Germany to our church, and they were all Americans and Canadians. Mm-hmm. And we had one that stayed with us. And when he started talking to me, I knew exactly that it was me who was speaking on that stage. Oh, wow. Even though at that time, I hated English because I made some really, really bad experiences with speaking in front of people,
no.
like my classmates. I was like, I will never, ever do that again.
Well, obviously, you speak very well, so that is huge improvement, I suppose, for you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So as you grew up and you had this epiphany, of course, that this is what you're going to do, how did that kind of permeate every area of your life?
Everything.
Really?
From that day on, even if I did it consciously or subconsciously, looking back, I know it was mostly subconsciously. I always knew I had to go to the US. I had to move there for whatever reason. I grew up behind the wall.
Wow.
In Germany. So I was
Oh my
on the
gosh.
east side. So when the wall came down, Americans were celebrated, right? Because, well, with the whole history behind that. And it was a big deal for me to even be able to say, now I can go to the US without any problems.
Sure.
And
Well, if I can stop you for 1 second, because now the dream could really become a reality. And that can be scary at times, because before it's like, oh, it's a dream. This isn't a possibility. I'm behind this wall. And now it's like, oh my goodness, this really could happen.
yeah, I wasn't even nervous about it. That was the weird thing. Every
great.
time I do a big step, I take a big step, I just do it. And I can't even look back, and I don't remember anything and how I did it. I cannot remember how I came here for the first time when I was 18 for an exchange year. And then I went back to Germany to get my degree, and I got it in sociology and psychology. There were a lot of ups and downs and depressive phases and anxiety in between.
Sure.
We don't have to quite get into that at this point, but it was interesting for me that I was so attached to this dream that I thought I have to control exactly how this dream is coming to reality.
Yeah. And I think that's a really big lesson, because so many times we want to control things. Sometimes if we try and put it in a square peg in a round hole, it doesn't always work that way.
No, not at all. You literally wear yourself out. And I didn't trust my intuition at all. And that's where the book comes in too. I didn't trust it at all. I knew it. I knew that there's something different about me. I'm very highly sensitive. We're also considered empath. And it was really interesting for me just to have this experience and how I've gone through, and looking back, and I was like, why in the world did you not listen to your own heart in that situation? Why did you have to push through? Why did you have to do this and this and this and this? But looking back, it's because I didn't grow up with the things that I know today. If I would have known that back then, things would have gone differently.
Yes, of course.
But it was definitely interesting how just subconsciously I was pushing always towards that. And I always heard subconsciously, or there was always this voice that said, if you want to create a movement and start something big, you have to go to the US, because everyone knows what's going on in the US, but nobody knows what's going on outside the US.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and that's definitely the case. Well, let's transition into your book there. So your story was a foundation for your book, The Power of Faith-Driven Success.
Yes.
Tell us more about that book.
Well, The Power of Faith-Driven Success, a lot of people are like, oh, that's probably one of those religious books again. No, it's actually not, because I was always a little bit in war with church growing up. I grew up very, now I'm missing the word, conservative.
With maybe more legalistic, maybe with so many rules. Yeah, I understand.
If I tell you Lutheran, Protestant, then you know.
Yes, I know exactly what you mean.
And everything that I experienced back then would have been considered evil. The gifts that I have, the way I can read people, this is all witchy, right? That comes all from that history of when witches were burned. And it was just interesting for me, because I thought there's something wrong with me the whole time. And when I finally came to the US, I was able to kind of break free from those restrictions of church. And I went to all kind of different churches here. And I was like, I don't relate to religion in general. I am a Christ follower and all that fun stuff, but there is something different between spirituality and religion.
Yes.
And things that where you can bring faith and science together, where it totally makes sense with quantum and metaphysics.
Yes, it does.
But as well with what religion is trying to imprint into your brain, so they can control. But that's where the faith came with that. I actually had a different title, and I can't remember what title that was, but I definitely wanted to leave out faith, because I didn't want to push anyone away who didn't identify with religion. And I need to tell you that story because that one was awesome. I wanted to give up on this book because I decided I don't want to have anything with faith in there because I wanted young people to understand how their brain and their heart works together and how that influences their life. And one morning I went downstairs into our kitchen. My husband was making breakfast and my son was already sitting at the table. And I said to my husband, I'm giving up on this dang book. I can't write. I've been up since 4 o'clock writing this dang book. I just have a blockage. And we sat at the table. He didn't say much. And suddenly he looks at me. He's like, do you feel that? I was like, no, what? Do you feel that? Like suddenly like an energy, something like a tornado came in and we both looked outside and there were sitting 3 hawks outside on our patio railing. 3 hawks. And they usually don't come in packs at all.
Yeah.
And they're not very often in a suburban area either. And I just suddenly felt such a message download. For me, they're my messenger. That's how nature communicates with me. And it was just incredible. After that, they did not leave until I finished the book.
Are you serious? That's really cool.
They were consistently in front of my office window until the day I finished writing that book. And when it was the final version, my editor sent to me, they were gone and I didn't see them again. Now one shows up when I'm struggling with something.
So
and they
cool.
just show up once and then they leave again real quick, like they were never here.
Yeah.
But that's where I heard like you need to add the faith part in it. You need to. I'm like, I don't want to. But they didn't leave. And so I did. And once I did put that in there and really stood up for what I believe and bringing both together, that's when the book just downloaded for me.
That's great. And I'd agree with you 100% that science and spirituality can connect in so many ways. You know, we live in a physical world and we have a spiritual being and they have to live together. They have to work together. There's just no way around it. And religion is beautiful in many ways, but yes, it is very restrictive in a lot of ways as well, which doesn't allow for people to fully express themselves or to fully embrace all their God-given or just the gifts that are inside of them. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. So this book, when you talk about the faith-driven success, give us some of the principles that are in that.
The basic really is about how to find your access to your intuition, how to be able to trust yourself despite everything that's going on around you, the expectations that are being put on you, especially when you're young, the things you are supposed to do, even though your heart is telling you something else. And that was even the driving point for me as a transformation coach. I was working with a lot of young people and they said, I don't know what it is, but something just doesn't feel in alignment with what I want to do and what I've been told and taught in school and all that. And when you leave school, you're so overwhelmed and you don't even know who you are at this point. You want to dry out all the new things, but you also don't want to you have this fear of adulthood, and that's where I wanted to tell the story. So the basics are, how does your brain and your heart work together, and what does that mean for you, and how you can tap into your intuition, really trusting and connecting with your soul. And then some expectations, like how you can protect yourself from emotional overload that you may take on, if it's through toxins in food, environment, all those fun things, and how to protect yourself energetically from some of that. So there's some specific tools and kind of like a coaching part to it too, because there's like the personal page where people can write down their thoughts and go through the questions.
Oh, so it's a workbook as well.
Kind of. I wanted to make it both so they can have their notes as well if they have some thoughts coming up for themselves. And I got a lot of feedback about it, and people said that was perfect because I had so many questions and thoughts that came up while I was reading it, or people read it 2 or 3 times just to kind of rediscover themselves, letting go of all the attachments that they have on them and carry with them just from the way they grew up.
That's great. That really is. I'm actually just looking at your webpage as well, and you really talk about that. And I love how you make it very practical. I think so many times in the self-help world, it can be very confusing for people, or so lofty, or not everybody understands certain terminologies of vibrations or this or that. And it can be very confusing, because I know I've had a lot of guests on here, wonderful guests, but sometimes I know some of my listeners are like, what does that even mean? And unfortunately, I don't have enough time to go into some of that. But I really like how practical yours is, not minimizing the strength of it, but I like how practical it is that really links together the ability to trust one's intuition. I mean, I know there's so many times, including my own life, where I'm like, oh, I knew I shouldn't have done this, or I knew I should have dated this person. Yeah, we always do. And it's like, well, James, if you knew that, let's work on that. So that's definitely one of my journeys as well, is really listening to my intuition. And I know so many people right now listening are like, yes, I know that as well.
Consistent. I mean, no matter how long I've been studying this topic for the last 10 years, and sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, Isabel, really? Like, really? Do you not listen to your own words?
I wanted to go back to something because you called yourself an empath. And I think so many times that has some connotations, or not everybody understands what that is. And it can be like, whoa, this is weird. But let's really normalize that for people, because I think a lot of people have empathic qualities they just don't realize.
Right. Well, there is a difference between being empathic and being empathetic. Empathy, you can be taught. You can learn that, to be empathetic with other people, to show compassion. You can train that muscle in your brain. But then, if anyone has read the book, The Highly Sensitive, I think that's how it's called. I forgot the author. Oh, well, anyways, she's done a lot of research on highly sensitive people, and they're about 30% of the world population that would be considered under this term of highly sensitive, empathic. And it means that our brain, the mirror neurons in our brain are developed stronger. So that means that we don't just empathize with people. It's almost like we become them.
Yes.
And it just hurts. We feel someone else's pain as it would be our own. And over time, you create certain survival mechanisms to keep you, like, just to protect yourself. That could be like withdrawing. That could be aggressive behavior. Those people often are more prone to depression, anxiety, as well as drug use. Just to numb the emotional experience of what they're going through. And I, in my work, can explain that in a more energetic, like with science and how this works with the metaphysics, and how we can actually have a normal, empowered life and still being on our mission without having to sacrifice ourselves just because the way we feel.
Oh, that's wonderful. I really like how, once again, how you normalize that, because I think that's just I want to say the main lesson, but hearing you talk, I really like how you bring this down to everybody's level, where it's not so, I don't want to say weird, but it's normal everyday life. Everybody experiences these things, and you make it really, you put it on a level where everyone can understand it. So even when you work with people, you talk about that as well?
Oh, yes. I work, like, my individual clients are mostly empath, and I call them empath warriors, like those with a big message and don't know how to get it out on stage because they're so overwhelmed and always have, like, brain farts when they're with people.
Sure. It's hard to focus.
So I work with those on an individual basis, but I also have it made my mission to teach people about the spirituality of emotions, bringing spirituality back into the topic of emotions, because as of the last 3,000 years, it started with Rene Descartes. He had
I know that is, yeah.
Right. He's the forefather of the modern medicine, right? And he had this deal going with the Pope to get dead bodies for his research. He had to promise, or he had this contract with the Pope to not bring any spirituality into his research. And so the spirituality stayed with the Pope. The physical part of the body and mind stayed with him. And that was the separation of mind, body, soul.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. And that's where we're bringing now back the soul part into the physical, and understanding that our emotions, and that's kind of the next step to the book, where you can learn to trust even more your intuition, because your emotions are that soul guidance that we all yearn for. We all want that. Like, someone tell me what I'm supposed to do. Well, Listen very closely. Your body is really trying to communicate with you on a very deep level and a very profound level. And so I teach and speak on that topic in keynotes and workshops as well. We're bringing the intuition part that's talked about in the book, bringing that all back together.
Oh, that's wonderful. How exciting. I'm really excited to hear this, because like I said, I've been in this field for many years, and I like hearing how you are once again, normalizing this, but also really bringing all elements together to help people live a successful life and to realize all their dreams.
It is exciting, definitely.
What's next for you?
What's next for me? I am actually working on a program for schools and colleges for emotional maturity.
Oh, great.
We're not quite sure how we're going to do it yet because there's a lot of lawyer work that needs to go into and trademark and all that fun stuff.
Sure.
But I think we're ready for the project, especially with where we're at right now, and younger generations need more support, especially emotionally. So that's what I'm working on right now. But at the same time, I'm working on a TED Talk because people are like, you need to do this.
Yeah, of course. You definitely need to do that.
Oh, man. And so I see it as a sign, but at the same time, I can feel how I'm blocking it because I only have keynotes. I don't really know how to put in a TED Talk. So, of course. So I'm working on that. I know, I really think it's going to happen this year or the beginning of next year.
So we will believe that for you as well, because you have a message, just like your prophetic dream, you have a message that you can shout from the rooftops.
That's right.
Isabel Hundt, it has been an absolute pleasure having you on my show today. If my listeners want to find out more information about you and to purchase this book, where would they find this information online?
The book you can find on Amazon. I have the Kindle, the audio, the paperback. All of that is there on Amazon. If you just type in my name, Isabel Hundt, it will pop up right there.
Awesome. So if they want to work with you as well, what is your website?
My website is isabelhunt.com. I make it very simple for people to find me.
Excellent. Well, Isabel, what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to put your book one more time, The Power of Faith-Driven Success, in the store at jamesmillerlifeology.com. So if my listeners aren't able to find it on Amazon, simply go to the store. Once again, jamesmillerlifeology.com, and you can find the book there, and it will link you directly with Amazon. Isabel, thank you so much for being a guest today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I also want to thank you, the listener, for tuning in today. Please subscribe to this radio show through whichever portal you joined with us today, or please go to my website where you may sign up for my free newsletter, watch my YouTube episodes, read the articles I've written specifically for you, or you may enroll in the Lifeology Academy where you can take self-directed courses which will help you simplify and transform your spirit, mind, and body. If you'd like to personally work with me, be a guest on, or advertise on this show, simply visit jamesmillerlifeology.com. Be sure to follow me on all social media platforms under the name James Miller Lifeology, except for Twitter, which is James M. Lifeology. Once again, thank you so much for your support, and I'll talk to you soon.
AM/FM 247, the best in talk and music all day and every day.